welcome back to another episode of NFT Artist Spotlight, hosted by AstroZero. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks.
So joining us tonight on the AstroZero Twitter Spaces is a fantastic Polygon artist. Started becoming a very good friend with this guy as of late, and really enjoyed talking to him. He's a creator of a collection of unique robots. It's Mr. Deadbot Nation. So welcome to our Spaces, man. Glad to have you here. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So can you tell us a little bit of your background as far as art goes, and what made you decide to start getting into NFTs and making a collection?
So, as a child, like a lot of us, I drew all the time. Like art was, I'd get A pluses. Everything else was terrible, but I just loved art from before I could talk. And it's just been pervasive in my life. Comic books, animation pretty much ruled the majority of my childhood. I would draw continually. I would write stories. Everything about that environment was just magical for me, and I would just do that night and day, 24/7. And as I grew up, my parents were a little more on the practical side. They're like, "You need a real career." So, they're like, "How about design school? How about you go, learn some graphic design, some marketing, those kinds of things." And, that made sense. I really wanted to, go to art school, but I said I'll do that first. So I went on to, get a career in design, and headed out into the world. And it was always still there. And I still collected comics. I was an adult, but I loved it. I didn't care. I even had collectibles. I was that kid at heart. I just couldn't let that go. But I had a day job, and I was designing, like pizza coupons and store things, and it was just I was doing it, but it wasn't the love that I had. And so I kept doing that for a while, but art started to creep back in. And a lot of what happened was, I met a few people. I lived on the East Coast, and I met a few people through Facebook, which, because it was a long time ago, they were doing events out in California. A lot of them, they were extreme sport events like skateboarding and surfing and those kind of things. And I already loved extreme sports, and I just loved this environment. And it was crazy because this was the late 90s, early 2000s, and it was exploding. Like with the X Games were just getting huge, and all of this stuff was going on. And it feels a lot like what, the energy around NFTs, but that was just kind of the thing happening then. And I met a particular guy that I really, really vibed with, and he had a skateboard company, a small one, but his niche was um, up and coming girls who were getting into extreme sports, and they didn't have a lot of the spotlight. A lot of the guys, would get all the camera time, but he wanted to help represent them. So he had skateboards that were specifically designed. I mean, the decks were basically the same, but I mean the style of the art and all of that was really geared towards that niche of like young pros or young girls trying to come up as pros. And so he's like, "Hey, dude, can you, work with me to do promotion, to do merch, to do these things?" And I just was like, the light came on. I could still do design. I still had a day job, but the entire night I'd be on the phone. I'd be like designing, merch for different events. And it kind of lit the fire again. It still wasn't exactly what I loved, but it kind of got things going. So I was super busy. I was married at the time. I was, all night. My wife would go to sleep, and I would be working all night on this stuff. I'd get 3 hours of sleep. I'd do a day job. I'd come home, give my son a bath. He was born in 2008, and it was just I was like super busy with this. And in 2010, my wife had a massive heart attack, which we weren't even at home, and it happened one day. We were in a store, and she just collapsed. You can imagine my world. Like I'd been so incredibly busy, and this thing just threw. It was just crazy, and it kind of it was like the bottom dropped out. I was just kind of falling at that point. I had a 2-year-old son. I was, she passed. They couldn't bring her back. It was really quite a weird and tragic. It was hard to take. And I'm sorry, this is quite heavy, but what that did was it kind of reset everything. I just was like, I need to stop. I need to, spend time with my son. I need to step back. And so we'd spend nights watching cartoons, he and I. I mean, he was, he'd watch his and he'd go to bed, and then I'd watch like Adventure Time or Rick and Morty, and it was just like I needed to just reset everything. And in doing that, I really started to get that vibe again. The stories behind, like even Rick and Morty, if you watch the stories, or you read about Dan Harmon and how he writes that, all of that stuff kind of rekindled the desire in me to write and to draw and to build characters and build worlds. And it started there. And that happened, that's been happening actually for a few years, but I didn't have an outlet, right? I thought I'd go back into the merch world. I had a merch by Amazon store, and I would post my characters on there, and I still try to promote on Facebook, and I was out there. But people, unless you're doing like cute little word t-shirts or something, meme t-shirts, they weren't really, just didn't have a platform to really talk about this. And then in September of last year, I just happened to find an article about NFTs. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I can now have a collectible. I can give somebody a piece of my art that's validated as my artwork. I can do one, I can do 1,000, but every one of those was produced by me and can be proven. And I have to say, the kid inside of me, the collector who used to buy the number one comic hoping it would, be huge someday, was just woke up. Like, now this is my platform. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I've learned a lot because I didn't have community. I posted on OpenSea and was just thought they would show up and buy stuff. And it wasn't until around Christmas time when I started to get into Beluga space and I started to be part of the Polygon community that everything kind of clicked. And now I can't stop. This is just an environment that I will do until there's nothing to do. It's art, it's community, it's a platform for our independence. So yeah, I know that's a lot right there, but that's kind of the history of how I got here.
What people that collect comics, you kind of stick to a particular brand. Were you a Marvel guy or a DC guy or an Image guy?
Oh man, I started out as a Marvel guy, and then when Image showed up and Wildstorm and Top Cow, I really kind of jumped the gate there and went into that world because the color, the artists, I mean Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, all those guys were superstars, and I was just eating that up. And so yeah, I kind of bounced into the new stuff at that time.
Yeah, my brother, he used to collect a lot of comic books when I was growing up, and like Punisher was his guy. And when he moved out, he left the collection to me, and then I ended up buying it and buying comics and adding to it, and it turned into like an obsession for a little bit. And I took care of my like backboards, and they were in like the plastic sleeves, and I had them all like stored nicely. And then they just started taking up too much space, and I just sold them all. And I do regret it, but on the other hand, I never used to read them. They used to just they were just collector pieces.
Yeah, I was the same way. I would buy one and then buy another. One would go in the sleeve of the cardboard, and the other one I would keep to read. But I read it carefully so I could put it back in the sleeve. It was a little obsessive. I actually followed the same path as you because I had them for years and years and years. I had like large boxes, and they were all packed, and I wasn't really looking at them. I mean, the art was in my head, the storytelling was there, but the comics were just, they'd become a collectible. There wasn't the enjoyment of opening them up and looking through them and reading them. And all this stuff was moving online anyway. So you could be in a subscription like Comixology and just, you could go through that stuff without, you know, without having to ruin the paper. So yeah, eventually I actually sold all mine. I kind of regret some of that, but there's so much content now, and I hope a lot of this moves to NFTs because then you can enjoy it. It's collectible and it's still pristine after 1,000 views. So this is the new world for sure. Are you still
I'm
good?
back, but I got rugged there for a minute. Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're solid.
All right. Sorry about that. I apologize. Well, it's really Twitter's fault. It's not my fault. So, are you the only person working on this project, or do you have some other people working on it with you?
I am absolutely the only person. I'm the web developer. I'm the artist. I am the chiller. Yeah, I'm pretty much everything. I I hope to reach out. It's foreign to me because, being on an island, which is a lot of artists have been for a lot of years without a community, it's not normal for me to go, man, I don't really know how to do this. I've talked to people or I've heard people talk about how they do this, but it's foreign to me to reach out to somebody because until I've been part of this community, I didn't think, why would anybody bother unless I paid them $1,000 to even, do anything for me. But that's not the way it is. People are so helpful. It's kind of weird for me. I'm like, what can I do for you? What can I do? But yeah, I'm a one man guy right now, and I find that between Discord and Twitter, I really want to write a smart contract. I need a DApp. I need, all of these things need to get done, and I'm gonna need help at some point for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a common like misconception that a lot of people have where they think I'm going to start an NFT project and I just make art and then I talk about my art, but there's a lot of other stuff behind it. There's a lot of inner workings to an NFT project as far as how it goes with, promoting your project, setting up a Discord and managing a Discord. Managing a Discord is like a job in itself if you have like an established NFT project. That's like a full-time job right there because that's kind of like one of the lifebloods of these NFTs. Now, are you working on getting your own Discord up and running, or have you started one yet?
I have one. I actually have. It's been there since around Christmas time, but it doesn't have bots, so I could probably be slammed or shut down quite easily. There's not really, so I haven't advertised it. I've got a couple people that have, been super cool here on Twitter that bounced over and just signed up. But there is Deadbots does have a Discord there,
Okay.
so yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking through your link tree and I didn't see it on your website either, so I was assuming maybe it was a work in progress.
It is definitely a work in progress, and that's why I haven't put it out there because I don't want, I want to have verification. I want to have all the proper security in place, and I'd love to be able to verify users that holds, my NFTs, and I know that takes another bot, and so, I don't want people to come over while it's kind of in its infant stage, and I think that's the same with a lot of people. We want to have it look professional and work properly. So when that happens, I will start blasting that out for sure.
So, what made you decide to go the robot route? When when I saw your animation for the first time, and I saw the artwork that you're doing, it's not like it, but like the first thing that popped into my head was Futurama. I don't know if you're a Futurama fan, but your robots kind of reminded me of Futurama.
Uh, Futurama, Bender was probably the biggest inspiration for the series one bots. I picked that because, well, first of all, he's an awesome character, but it was more because he's easy to animate, and my goal for these is to have animation. I mean, I would like to have graphic novels first, or at least some stories with art, but animation has always been a desire, a huge desire. So these are designed specifically so that they can walk around easily. They don't really have elbows or shoulders, so you can bend their arms and move their head around and their mouth. It's just like simple animation. Because again, I always try to plan on these things as if I'm going to do them myself, and so I didn't want to make these guys super complex, anime style, and then have to figure out how am I going to animate this. He's got a lot of parts. But it, again, I hope that maybe I have a team by the time. I don't think that I'll be able to accomplish this without a strong team, So that's a future goal.
So, have you considered maybe, you know, offering some sort of incentive to people to try to help you maybe grow your Discord or moderate it, maybe give them some airdrops or something like that. I mean, you are on Polygon, so that does make it a little bit easier to do that. Or is that more of a concern because your collection isn't it's not like a 10K collection, so it's kind of like on the smaller end. So I don't know if you have any sort of strategy how to maybe grow a team. Do you?
Um, Not really, because again, I'm so used to just sort of charging in and doing this myself. I have a lot of stuff that could be minted. I have a lot of you know stuff in the folder that I just was like, well, it's very similar to maybe one of these bots, or it looks similar to that bot. I have a fair amount of stuff that I could mint, even from Series One, that I just, you pick the best that you feel is the best of the best. At least I did, and I put it up there. Every piece I wanted to be different than the other one and make it interesting, and each one has its own story. But as far as like offering an incentive in a giveaway, or just being able to give somebody a part of the collection, there's a fair amount of dead bots that didn't make it, but they look the same as the other ones. They could be put up. I could use those. But again, it's interesting because for me, when I look at that stuff and I go, that's a part of me, right? I mean, I love to design these things. I do them in my style. They all have thick lines and color and all that. But and I don't know if other people feel this way, but you feel like the value to me is high because I love my art. Is the value, without like say a token behind it, is the value there for other people? Would they help me out if I could mint a few of these, few more that nobody's ever seen? Maybe they're rare, and offered them to them? I mean, maybe that's something. I don't know. So this is so brand new to me and so foreign because of the world that I've come from, in terms of like, you do a service for me and you pay me or whatever it is, that I don't even think in those terms a lot of times. It's a mind shift for me.
Yeah, the good thing is you have the Polygon community behind you, and we're all trying to help each other. So I mean, at least you have a strong foundation of people that are willing and able, and even if it's small things like doing retweets or being there for a mint party or something like that. I mean, that's big stuff. I've come through spaces like I'm in spaces constantly, and I've seen people doing like a mint party, and there's 5 people in there, and I'm like, that's pretty shitty, like, um, and like I think you made a good choice. You joined into the right community of people that are always there and fully supportive. So I think that's a good choice on your part. As far as that goes. So let's start talking about the collection a little bit. Now, Series One, you have it broken down into 4 parts, right? So you've released Series One. How many are in the total collection for Series One?
There's 50 in Series 1, but it was really it's a split series because I had done full image bots, and then I did the PFP versions of those. And again, I wasn't really sure what people would want. And so technically there's 25 in the first series. And so 25 of the PFPs have sold, and I have sold a couple of the full images as well. So I would say there's 25. There's going to be 50 different ones in Series 2. And Series 2 is definitely a whole different look and feel. You can tell from the pin tweet, it doesn't have that Bender look anymore. There's still some of the same flavors, but Series 2 is the next off the line. Series 2 is going to be, it's actually the bad guys. So it's going to be interesting. It leaves me a lot of room to do some creative stuff that I didn't have before, because Series 1 is really the protagonist of the story. So this has been a lot of fun for me. But yeah, Series 2 will be 50 individual robots.
Yeah, Series Two. I was gonna say they look evil. They look like they're and now that you confirmed they're on the villain side, that's pretty badass. Um, do you eventually intend to incorporate? I know you have a storyline set up on your website, but are you eventually maybe thinking of breaking it out into some sort of animated series, or possibly going into like a comic? Or I know you said you have a huge influence from the comic book industry. Would you be considering maybe doing a comic book? What's the process that you're going to go after you have everything minted out?
Yeah, absolutely. The story's technically all written. I mean, I know the where they have to go and what they have to do. I know, who they meet. It's mapped out completely because, like I said, I mean, this was stuff I had done prior to NFTs. Some of the robot designs are newer. Like the stuff I'm doing now is just from inspiration right now, but it's really from the story. So it's entirely mapped out. Um, and it would be several episodes for sure. And probably if it was a comic book, it would be a series of comic books. Again, when I approached what I would do, I said, well, I probably have the bandwidth to do a book with some illustrations. A comic, I mean, that's a lot of panels and it's a lot of pages. And without help, it would probably be the book and some illustrations. So, um, I have goals all written down. I know I don't have the roadmap out on my site. You probably looked around for that. And I think that's because it's slightly been in flux as I've learned what other people are doing and what's possible in the NFT world and what's possible with this community. So I have a goal sheet, which I want to transfer to a roadmap. But when I put a roadmap up, I really want to make sure I can meet everything, especially for the people that hold my collection. I want to promise them something and deliver. So putting this book together is the easiest first step, and the book is written. So I'm super psyched. And, as I release, it'd be fun to actually release parts of the story as the series come out, um, because it grows with that. There's ultimately this world kind of gets larger and larger and different bots. I mean, I have zombies. I have these guys that are like jacked up on nuclear power. There's just this crazy world, and the story. The good guys have to weave their way around all of this to get to the source of power to restore their planet. So lots ahead.
So we're talking to Deadbot Nation. Has a really awesome collection, very detailed collection of robots. If you haven't already, please follow him on Twitter, and his website is deadbotnation.com. So make sure to check it out. The storyline's broken down on there, and you can get a little preview of what all of his robots look like on there. Um, so have you done anything as far as like making a comic book in the past, even like toying around with something like that, or would this be like a whole new territory that you'd be embarking in?
I have I've done sheets. I have starter comic books. Obviously, when I was a kid, I had all kinds of time and nothing to do. And, I'd pencil out and ink out comic books all over the place. And I still have a lot of that, but the writing was, kind of basic then. I have since, because I love to use Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and I love vector art because, the edges are clean. Everything is just so pristine, that I started to do I started to do some comics. But it's really, again, you kind of get into it. And as normally a comic book has a writer, has a penciler, has an inker, has a colorist, and then there's a whole other team of people that help produce it. And they're all working in tandem. So again, it comes down to me, and I tend to like nitpick on details, and that's something I'm trying to work on letting go of a little bit. But so if it takes me 2 weeks to get 2 pages out, and I love them, that's cool, but it's not productivity that I need. So I again, it comes down to needing some help, or just scaling that back and doing some real cool illustrations, and then having a couple pages of text and some real cool animation. I keep saying animations, illustrations, and building a book initially, because that's something I could get done, and that's something I could publish and then go on from there. So that's really the first goal I have with this.
Yeah, I always, whenever I talk to NFT projects that are doing comics, maybe it's because I was heavily influenced with comics as a kid, but I always ask the person, like, what's the direction that you go? Do you start with the storyline, or do you start with the animation or the illustration? Like, which would start first? And I always get the same answer, like a little bit of both. Can't really kind of like just go with one set route. It kind of develops like organically. That's what pretty much every one of them have told me so far. So I don't ask that question anymore because it's probably going to be the same answer from you. So we're going to move on to the next question here. I saw that you've done some collaborations with some other artists, mainly Sleepy Pirate. So can you tell me about the Sleepy Cyborgs that you guys have made?
Well, it's actually funny because I was trying to figure out how I was going to incorporate the two, and I just came up with the first one, and it was really designed basically to mimic his character, and he was kind enough to let me do that, and it's in my style. And Sleepy, super cool, and he's like, "Hey, that's really great. Why don't you do some more?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't know that was a thing you could do. I didn't know you could take. Collaborations are great, right? I mean, you promise to do one in your style of whatever their project character is. They to have the right to do a bunch. I'm like, oh, awesome. So I did. I think there was five in total, six maybe. And I had a little fun. There was a sort of a Batman one because that's pervasive in my life. And I just did a couple different things. And I might revisit that. I have to talk to him and make sure. I mean, I love maybe the Sleepy Cyborgs will just be, on occasion I can do a couple that aren't pirates and just do some more. They're super easy. The platform is fun, and it's something I could almost do an autogen, for. So I just put that out there as a side collection. I'd love to revisit that when I have a little bit more time. But it was really for that project, and yeah, I don't know. I hope to do more of that. Like, it's a shame when you collaborate with somebody and you build kind of a cool little combination character to do just one. It'd be, I'd love to see you do like more of the same for other people that are doing collabs, but we're all busy and that can't really always happen. But yeah, it was fun, a lot of fun.
I really like them. They make me laugh. And Sleepy's such a good guy, and he's such like a kind-hearted guy, and breaks out his guitar, and he makes me smile every time I talk to the guy. He's really just such a fun-loving guy. I love Sleepy so much. Um, so do you have any plans in the future to maybe make a game or do something with these in the metaverse?
So really, that was the long term goal because the dead bots, they have to go on a mission and have to make decisions. And essentially what it is the world's in chaos. It's a wasteland, and there's these roaming, as you can see in series two. There's roaming bands of bad bots. There's a lot of bots that are in hiding, and this particular little group is in hiding, and they have self-preservation. They don't want to just head out and be squashed by something or have their batteries run out, but they have to because they discovered this tome, and this tome tells them of a great power, but they have to follow all these clues and paths to get to it. So there is a whole adventure, and really, it's set up to be a game. But again, I just didn't know how I would achieve that without finding a game developer, selling the IP, or trying to work out a marketing deal or something like that. But ultimately, the story was designed to be a game, and so I hope I can make that happen someday in the metaverse.
I don't know if you've had Sega Saturn. I I know it's kind of like off, but Sega Saturn used to have a game called Virtual On, and it was all about robots fighting each other in like an open arena. I don't know if you're familiar with that game, but when I look at your series two, the like tank tractor feet that you have on this specific robot reminds me of a mix between those robots and Johnny Five from Short Circuit.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I'd love to hear that stuff. Yeah. I didn't play the game. I don't know where the inspiration. I guess it's just a mix of things. I wasn't really looking at anything when I started series two. it was the basic shape of Series One, but I was kind of tired of the Bender look. I mean, I love Bender, but it didn't really give me enough to be able to hang off, some guns and things like that. That's not anything I did in Series One. But Series Two and Series Three is actually going to be, again, even more bulky. It's going to kind of get into the more mech style. And I have to say, a lot of this has been driven by a collab I'm doing with Beluga right now. I've been diving back into sort of mech style Gundam, all the older anime stuff that I used to watch, and that has driven a lot, really a lot of the gear that's in Series Two. And Series Three will have like heavier bots and more crazy stuff, because with each series, the data becomes more corrupt, so they become a little bit more crazy. And that's why Series 2 is called the bad seed, because that's where the data starts to become corrupt in the manufacturing. And Series 3 is worse. Series 4 is like the apocalypse. And I mean, our poor Series 1 guys have to navigate through all of this as it's happening. So it's going to be, a lot of fun, I hope.
How did you decide when you first released them what the floor price was going to be?
Yeah, that was, I guess I felt like, I don't know. That was the hardest decision. In fact, I had them. I didn't even post them for sale for a long time, and I was looking around at what people were doing, and I saw a lot of PFP art, and a lot of it was bigger collections, and they had generated them, so they had a fair amount more, and they were pricing them, let's say Polygon terms for wrapped ETH. They'd be anywhere from $3 to, on the high side maybe $15, and nothing was really more than $20 and for a PFP. And I'm thinking, man, okay, so I priced mine somewhere in the middle of that, and that's kind of how I had very few. They were all like super hand created, but I just felt like I needed to be in a price point that people were comfortable with, so I just found the middle ground, I guess.
Do you remember the date that you first released them?
Oh, the exact date. I came off of, well, it's funny because I was on Ethereum for a little while. I I waited a long time for gas prices, and then I think it was like 2 a.m. I tried it, and it was like $70, and I'm like, woohoo! So I posted, my first one up, the first spot for sale, and I started to post a couple other, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see how these do, and this was, I think it was in October of last year, maybe late October, um, and I just, I kind of waited, and again, like I mentioned earlier, nothing really happened, um, until I started to discover the Polygon, but community. But that was I think about October timeframe, and I think somewhere November I pulled them down and put them on Polygon.
So, explain the feeling to the people in the room who don't have an NFT project or just starting an NFT project when you make that first sale. Is it just like a kid on Christmas? Like how does it feel when you make that very first sale and you see it?
Oh my God, kid on Christmas, like twice fold. I was just blown away. I'm like, like I put some stuff up that I created, and people went and bought it. Like, and it's different because in years past, I worked with a client. They told me what they wanted. I did exactly what they wanted, and they bought it because we were under contract. Design work. This is different. Like, I created something I loved, like something I was really super psyched about. Put it up, and people were buying it. The first one that bought, and I think, I don't know if Soma's in the room. I think she was the first one that bought, the one I called the Game Master, which was kind of a Squid Games look. And I was like, I mean, I was in Trip Space, and I think that's when she bought it. And I'm like, man, I don't know that I could thank her enough. And I have goosebumps now. Seriously, I have goosebumps just thinking about that moment, because something you love, and people are, they like it too, and I guess as the person you are, they kind of buying into you. It's magical. I mean, and it's still, even now, when people buy stuff, I get goosebumps. I'm like, I'm like a kid who drew a picture and gave it to their parents, and they put it on the fridge. It's like I'm just super excited. So anyway, that's
It's
definitely something I'm psyched.
yeah, it's such a crazy feeling when you do something that you put your, blood, sweat, and tears into, and then you get like that show of appreciation. Like I could tell you, um, the when I used to play music, I remembered clearly the first show that like like our band sucked when we first started. We sucked pretty much the whole way through. But I remember the first show that we were at that we played and the first mosh pit that ever broke out. And I'm telling you, man, that was like I was like, holy shit. I felt like I was like Metallica that day. Like it felt so awesome to like just see reaction from people and like appreciate what you're doing. And the feeling is really like indescribable. It's you can't really put it into words. How are you, Dave?
I'm awesome. I want to flip that round from a fan's perspective as well, though. Like I used to go around and watch little punk gigs and turn up on a Wednesday night to my local pub and watch 10 or 15 bands come out. And the bands that interacted like you just did with the fans was awesome. Like pulled you up on stage and did little mosh pits. But it's the same from a collector's perspective, Deadbots. I buzz when I got into Goons and Absalom created a personal relationship with me. Like there's a reason I'm still there. Do you know what I mean? Like it was more than just the art, and I think that's a huge thing, especially when it's an early piece. It gives you an opportunity to massively connect, and that relationship is special. It means something.
Yeah, that was huge. I don't even know, like, why I got into a space one night. I think it was just because I was curious what was going on. Like people were talking, and I was already on Polygon, so I think the space. I think it was Trip Space. He was talking about being on Polygon, and I was listening to the people talk about the stuff they put up and the stuff they bought. And I it was a few spaces before I hit that request button, and I tell you, I was shaking in my boots. But it was that was huge. Like more than even just getting people to meet me. It was getting comfortable in learning. Like I mean, learning. There were a lot of terms I didn't understand. There's just so much to grasp. But as I've spoken in spaces and felt more comfortable, I feel like I've stepped out of even the Polygon spaces and just jumped into some bigger ones, as we all do, and stuff that's even less, maybe there's nobody in there doing Polygon. But I just it's really built confidence, and it's really shown that if you find value in something you're doing, there's going to be a community of people that find value in it too. I mean, especially if you're genuine, I think, and you absolutely love what you're doing, and you put it out there and you talk to people. It's magical. I mean, and so spaces are, I can't say enough about them. They have just been a change for me, a life change for me in terms of NFTs.
Do you have something, Mr. Chief? Mr.
No, not
Chief?
right now. No, not right now. I was trying to catch up to what was being said right now.
Oh, okay, all right. Um, where the hell was I here? I have to remember where I was. Um, so once you release your second series, you're gonna have two series after that, right? You said you're gonna, because when I was looking on your OpenSea page, it was saying that it's gonna be broken down into pre-apocalypse, post-apocalypse, junkyard bots, and then like whatever the future holds. Um, how's that gonna be? Is that because post-apocalypse, is that your series too?
That's series two. So pre-apocalypse is the good years. It's like when all the bots are still, they have their data intact, and the world is not dead yet, and they're still in manufacturing. So that's come and gone. And really, series one represents that. Series two represents the post-apocalypse. This is the world that's destroyed, and it's when things are starting to go south. So series three won't necessarily be. It's just going to be another iteration of a different kind of bot. And since I'm doing about 50 per collection, I probably won't leave the post-apocalypse until after Series 3. So, at Series 4, then things are going to start to get rough because the robots are going to be broken down. So that's going to almost be the zombie stage. And, things are just going to gradually get worse. But I want to stay on post-apocalypse to create a couple different interesting sets. If I was doing 10,000, or even 5,000 or 3,000, I'd probably jump between with each series. But I want to be able to have a little creative room and offer some more artwork within a particular time in the story. And so it'll probably be as it goes like that. It won't be series won't follow the different events in the world, but eventually that event will happen, and then you'll see the bots just get much more worse at that point. It's going to be cool, hopefully.
Have you talked to any of the other robot collections that are out there? I see Botscog is down there. I know Blockheads comes around every once in a while. Have you spoken to any of these guys about maybe doing something together, maybe a little hybrid project?
Yeah, Boston Cog and we talk all the time. You kind of trade different stories and stuff. And yeah, I would definitely down with anybody who had, wanted to work with some sort of side story, or even incorporate, if I could do a collab and bring, another person's bot into my story, work it out in the plot. The plot has a lot of room for, like I said, I mean, it's a game essentially, so it can go left or right, or, go straight. So I would be really stoked to be able to include, another person's, creation into my world, and likewise do the same, and maybe even do a spin-off story. Yeah, I'm so down for that. I love the collaborations. They are energizing creatively.
Do you have any utility in mind down the road for people that are holders? I mean, I know you were talking about maybe doing some sort of comic strip or something like that. Is that something that you might airdrop a holder? Is there any utility right now that I might not know about that you have involved in your project? Or is it just kick-ass art, which to me is just as good? I don't really necessarily think utility is required for NFT projects, but it's a question that I have to ask you.
So, it's interesting. I've kind of gone around a little bit. Originally I wanted the story, the actual story with the illustrations to be the utility. I wanted to be able to give the holders a book, or several books with their characters in it. I mean, they belong to them, right? And their characters are part of the story. And I thought maybe that would be a really cool utility, because really what I wanted to do was involve them in the story creation, like almost a voting process about what happens next. And that might still be on the roadmap. Like I said, the story is basically written, but it can go anywhere. It really can. And so I'm not sure at this point. I am sure about the book being a utility, but I'm not sure if logistically, people want to get involved with, like, maybe in Discord saying, yeah, make them go do this, or make them go do that. Or, maybe they just want the story with the illustrations with their characters in it, and their character's voice and character being played throughout the book. Again, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out. My goal right now is just to get as much art out as possible and make it, as high quality as I can. So yeah, it's a little bit in flux. Hopefully that answers the question.
Are you going to do any sort of maybe fan art contest, like create your own robot and then maybe you'll incorporate it into your collection?
Man, what I would love to talk to you. You've got so many good ideas. Fan art is awesome. I would be blown away if anybody wanted to, do some fan art, and I would include that in my collection. Even if they took, like, the basic robot shape and made something different. I mean, they could turn it into a car. They could turn it into a dinosaur. I would totally, totally be all over that.
I always think that's cool when you kind of have the fans or the crowd get into the gig or into the artwork that you're doing. I think it kind of makes like that bonding experience. And I think that's really how you kind of get those like diehard supporters that are, willing to stick around and, be a part of your later series. And I don't know. I always kind of dug stuff like that. I always liked it. Have you toyed? I know you said you started on ETH and then you switched over to Polygon. Have you maybe thought about possibly later series maybe releasing on a different blockchain or maybe trying a different marketplace other than OpenSea?
I think the only thing that I've thought about, I think as far as like generating the book and generating the collection, I haven't really wanted to leave Polygon because maybe because it's what I know, but it's kind of driving forward. It's growing so fast. The only time I've thought about maybe using a different network or different marketplaces, if I did a true one-of-one, maybe I did like a poster with all the bots, more, some elaborate stuff, and maybe the city behind it or something, a true like piece of art you'd want to put up, hopefully. I might try a different marketplace, something that's a little bit more geared towards, these more complex one-of-ones. But I don't think for a book and a series and in the ongoing characters that I'm putting out that I would want to go somewhere else. But, I'm always open. I mean, I hear a lot of different people talk about, especially with what just happened with OpenSea, talking about being on different marketplaces or being out and, just put stuff out in different places to cover yourself. I'm not there yet, but that might be something for the future.
So being that you don't have a smart contract, and how did you react when you heard that news a couple weeks back, where OpenSea was gonna limit collections of people that do lazy minting and kind of chopping it down for people? I know at this point it wouldn't have affected you much because you were able to do it. Kind of actually fit perfectly for you because you could do 5 collections of 50 apiece. But was that something that concerned you, and maybe you were considering going elsewhere?
I had to. Well, actually, I mean, I had to consider going elsewhere because, I shoot, there's 250 I could do. I could do 5 collections. I already had one, and I was like, how do I do this Sleepy Cyborgs now? What am I supposed to do? Maybe I can't put that. It was just, it's like if I wanted to do any side projects of a mini collection or 20 of something, I'm hosed. Like I can't do that now. I can't be, on a whim, collaborate with somebody like you just mentioned. Like if I wanted to do a pair up with another robot creator and we do a side by side story of some kind in a collection, can't do that. All of these things hit me. I'm like, what just happened? Like this is the brand new world, and now I'm being cut off at the knees. And I've watched Hashlip's, different videos about smart contracts. I started to get into that, but because I wasn't being pushed, there was no reason. I could, I do small collections. I can lazy mint. It might take me, a day or so to get them all up and get them right, but I can lazy mint. But this was an eye opener. So I'm still looking at a smart contract, and I still want to create a DApp, and I want to be independent in that way. And I think because what it does, the DApp especially brings people into your world. I mean, they're on your site, they're buying from you there. They can still see it on OpenSea, so that's cool. It's like great, but they're buying it from your spot, and you can have other calls to action there. It should be your home. Like at Web 2, your website was your home, right? Web 3, there's the metaverse now, but I mean I think that website still holds a lot of value, and so I'd ultimately like to get people to use that. That's the goal.
Yeah, I mean the DApp function. I think that's something that every project should really consider doing because you're. I think even for like the way our human brains work, even that split second when you go from website to OpenSea, you have kind of like a slight disconnect. And I think if you just have it straight through the website, people kind of feel like they're a part of the party almost. I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid, but that's how I think of it. I think like, all right, I'm involved. Like I'm a part of this team now. I'm a DevBot Nation team, as opposed to just buying this off a marketplace. You know.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, it's the same old adage, like, don't, as a user, don't make me think about it. Put it right there. I can do this with a click. My wallet pops up, I sign it, boom, done, right? I mean, and because you bounce from your site over to OpenSea, and you might end up on their homepage for some reason, maybe, or 404 or something like that. And that, unless they're diehards, they're not going to do a search and find your stuff and then look for that one they're interested in. So you're absolutely right. The margin for error of bouncing to their site is all over that. But if you have them right there, you it just keeps the interest. So that's a shorter goal for me. I really need to, and I've done programming, so and I've watched the videos, but I think the biggest issue I have is security, and I think you had Matic Mike in here, and that was an eye opener as far as security is concerned. So I need to actually hook up with somebody who knows more than I do when I do this.
I'm not sure where I saw it. I'm almost certain I saw it somewhere. Maybe it was your Twitter. I was on like every one of your pages going through all this stuff so I could do this AMA with you. Did I see that you were selling a Santa Claus robot? Are you doing holiday themed bots?
So I did one, and it sold. I was kind of, it actually sold the week after Christmas, and I would love to. I love that. Like, Christmas is I'm a kid, so Christmas is a big deal in my brain. But I did a Santa bot, and he was a little irreverent. He smoked a cigar, and he had, like, he's kind of like the mall Santa kind of robot. So, but yeah, I would love to, because I think people like that. It's fun just to drop stuff, and that's another reason why this whole thing with OpenSea was kind of an eye opener. Because if you just want to do a fun thing for Valentine's Day, and you want to just have a small collection, how do you do that? If they start cutting us off, but yeah, I absolutely did, and I will do more next year for sure.
So we're talking to DevBot Nation. If you guys haven't followed him yet, please follow him on Twitter. You can check out his website, devbotnation.com. Really cool stuff. Got a couple more for you before we wrap things up. And I'm curious how you said you've done programming and stuff in the past. Was there kind of a steep learning curve, like for like the average person that wants to get into NFT art and wants to set up a page and put their art up and create a wallet, not even necessarily doing a DApp and then doing lazy minting? Is there just like too much stuff that somebody has to do to get into this? And is that kind of like a barrier that we have where we need to educate people a little bit better in order to kind of really get this thing mass adopted?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that, I had experience. Certainly, building the website wasn't a big deal. Um, getting connected to a wallet, it's just there's a lot of moving parts, and if we can figure out how to kind of either have a simple step-by-step way for people to do it, because I don't know that there's a way for an artist who's starting from zero and maybe doesn't have any programming knowledge but is an amazing artist, can get all this together. I just kind of brought in a lot of stuff from years past of doing things, and kind of was able to build some stuff. And signing up for a wallet wasn't that difficult, but understanding how to buy and get crypto in, and maybe people are already doing that. But I think we definitely need to get the instructions kind of in a simple form. I bounced into now. Let me back up. It's funny because I had WETH in my wallet for a long. People were buying my stuff, and I would go buy other artists' work. I've spent all the money I've made on art that I love with my friends. I don't have a penny in there of WETH, but I was in a room, and I was asked the question point blank: how do I buy on Polygon? And I had never done this, and I hit Dave up like in a frantic, like I was on stage and I was a speaker, and I'm DMing him like, I need help, I don't know how to tell people how to bring stuff from the Ethereum network over to the Polygon network. And it wasn't Matic. They were all asking about WETH, and I hit up Beluga even, and he sent me Maddie's video, so all this stuff, I copied everything from what Dave sent me, and I sent the link from Maddie's video, and it was like, but I mean, all of this stuff, and it's starting to come together. I'm seeing more. It's like videos like Maddie does, and it's like just information that people have. It's getting there, but it's still the barrier into this is the understanding. We got rid of the gas fee barrier, but we still have a little bit of the knowledge barrier for the regular people, and then for artists, they have to also now incorporate marketing and shilling and building a website, and everybody. That's why the community is so important, to help these people come in. I still have a lot to learn. You guys, I learn stuff from you all the time, so absolutely.
Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
I just want to say Polygon Alliance, that's what we're doing. Like, none of us are getting paid in the background for what we're doing to build this. None of us. This is all about a bigger picture for everyone. And look, if there's some money off the back of it for Goons because people support us, then fantastic. That's awesome. But we want this knowledge platform that everyone can build. Everyone can go to Polygon Alliance right now and pull those tools out and use them, the onboarding tools. There's a video from Matty. There's a walkthrough guide from Ron Paul with him talking with screen recordings. There's all sorts of things there, guys. Make sure you're utilizing it, and those relationships can be built as well. I just wanted to just shield Polygon Alliance, if you like, quickly, because it was so pertinent to the topic you were talking about.
Shane, do you have? Oh, I'm sorry, Debot.
I was just gonna say I agree with you, Dave, and that's my go-to now. And I apologize, I should have mentioned that here, but I mean, you guys have taken you have so much stuff there. So I do. When everybody asks me that question, it's like, this is where you need to go.
Shane, do you have a question for Debot?
No, I was just going to kind of comment on the Polygon network because, for instance, if I think a little bit of education needs to be put forth in the fact that, for instance, Coinbase itself does not accept Matic or Matic on the Polygon network, but it does as an ERC20 token. But if you go to like a crypto.com, then they accept the Polygon or the Matic, specific token. So that can be a barrier and a little bit of confusion to the newcomer.
Absolutely. And people really need to learn this stuff, because people could think that they're doing the right thing, and the next thing you know, they're like, what's Matic? What's Wrapped ETH? And then they're all confused and don't know where the hell to go. And the education tools are really lacking. We really need to kind of do something as a larger scale community, not just the Polygon community. The NFT cryptocurrency community needs to really get more education out there, whether you're on ETH, Solana, Polygon, Avalanche. It don't matter what you're on. We need to really, everybody got to get everybody's back. I know some of us are partial to certain blockchains, but at the end of the day, everybody's in this together. If we really want this to win and really want this to be mass adopted, it don't matter. I don't give a shit what chain you're on. If you want to come here and you want to talk and try to figure out some sort of solution to fix this thing, then we all got to work together and get it done, because that's how we're going to succeed.
No, and I absolutely agree, and I will help in any way, shape, or form necessary. I'm fairly educated. We moved. We migrate. One of my projects, I'm not here to shill, so I won't say it. But one of my projects moved from Ethereum to Polygon because of the gas fees and because of our complicated contract. And the more complicated the contract, then the more expensive it is, no matter where you go. But even on Polygon, we went from spending $400 per transaction on Ethereum to less than a cent.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, and that's one big advantage that we do have on Polygon, right? If you want to promote your project, you could actually airdrop your whole damn collection if you really want. It's not going to cost you hardly anything. you can make a 10K collection and airdrop 3/4 of it just to get your name out there and just to give back, you know. So
That's
Debot,
fun. That's funny that you say that, because I created a 10,000 piece item just to get my art out there and show what it is that we're capable of doing. And I have airdropped, I would say, probably 2,000 of them, and I've paid next to nothing.
that's a beautiful thing. So Debot, can you give us a little bit of an idea, if you can? You don't have to. When Series 2 is going to be released?
Absolutely, and this is one of my major goals here. I have decided that it's going to be a rolling release. So this week there's going to be 6 of them released, and I'm bound and determined to get 6 out every week. That's my goal. It's I have the basic platform already built. I have a lot of them already in the works. So I'm going to actually picked Tuesday as my day to drop, and I noticed a lot of people's that do what I do, they drop what they can on Tuesday, as long as we're dropping something consistently. So I appreciate, there's so many people that have been like, dude, when are you going to drop? Like, you've been talking about this for a couple weeks now. Tomorrow I'm going to drop, and there will be at least 6 there. And the next week there's going to be at least 6 if I can do it, but I'm going to put stuff out every week. And that's my guarantee. Tomorrow, yes. Probably even tonight late, but we'll see. But it's definitely going to go out tomorrow. So there's going to be stuff, and I'll have a new pin tweet with a link, because it's a new collection. So I'll have a new pin tweet there with a bunch of pictures. So I really appreciate if anybody you want to check that out, that'd be cool.
That's awesome. Hey, Coin Laundry, do you have something for Debot?
Not just yet, unless it's time for that.
It could be time for that. Do you want it to be time for that?
Yeah, I guess so. I just was wondering if Deadbot, if you were planning on anything with any. I don't want to say there's a lot of robot projects, but there's a decent amount of them, even within the Polygon space. Do you guys have any plans on like making some crossover?
Absolutely. In fact, what I've done is, as I find them, I have a list that I'm making. Like, I'm kind of building up, because I really want. We joke that we're taking over the apes. We want to. So, so we want to do the robot revolution. But yeah, absolutely. I have plans. As we find more bots, people that are building those. I mean, and the cool thing is they're all like different styles. A lot of them have different stories in the back. But yeah, I mean, we want to do some giant collabs and some giveaways. And we did a quad giveaway recently with the Botsacog, Space Woman, and Polybots. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that. You'll probably be sick of bots at some point, just like we're all sick of apes. And that's my goal.
Yeah, Dave.
Well, we've got Astros as our next drop, Elon one. The one after that is Cyborgs. So there's I'm interested with any robots. I might have dropped you a DM, Deadbots, earlier on. But yeah, something's going to happen. It's in probably about 3 months, with a lot of robot projects. Hopefully, that's my plan anyway.
I mean, it might be a little bit of a reach, but a washing machine is almost a robot.
It is.
Yeah, Coin Laundry. You and I, we kind of hinted at it a while ago, and I know you've done a project already, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, we chatted, and then I think both of us got so busy. But after this week, I'm open to any and all collabs. I'll have a little cool down period, so whatever you have in mind, yes.
Does that mean you're about ready to send me a piece to put our edition on it?
Yeah, DM me your email.
All right.
We have a collaborator with you that just joined the party, Mr. Sleepy Pirate. Do you have anything for Deadbot Nation before we wrap up?
It's a sleepy day on a pirate ship. Ahoy, ahoy, ahoy. Did he mention our collab? Because he did an amazing job there. He's an amazing artist. So yeah, I am open to collabs too. As you guys can see, I'm in like 6 collabs at the same time right now. I don't know. I'm sorry I'm late because my space just took like 3 hours because Dave and Beluga just supported us. So many people just joined. Thank you.
It's all good, man. So we're gonna get ready to wrap up in a couple minutes. Where do you see Deadbot Nation a year from now?
A year from now, I see definite more of the story being. I think that really what I want to get out, because I can't really talk about the story in spaces because a lot of times it's quick shills. That's the meat of this, and that's what I'm going to focus on. So there's going to be consistent art coming out that's going to support the story, and I will probably start to release sections of the book. Definitely be airdropping to different, the people that are holding. But I think I'd really love for that just to be out there. It might even just be, I give a bunch of those away because once I create it, obviously I can do 1,000 of them and then just give them away to people. So it's, that's really my goal, is to get the story out, because basically I'm a story writer who likes to draw. It's really a combination of both. So my big goal is for everybody to know the story of the Deadbot Nation.
Coin Laundry, before we wrap up, you have something else?
Yeah, I had one more question because it just popped up on my feed. Did I hear rumors, Deadbot, that you're doing an all robots space?
Actually, yeah, it's I see that my compatriots have left. It's actually started right now. So there's a space going right now that I'm going to jump into as soon as we're done this. But it's our first time in spaces, so it's going to be a fun time.
That's awesome. So he's starting another space up. If you guys want, head on over there. I want to thank Deadbot Nation for coming out and talking to the community. If you haven't followed him, please follow him now. His Discord will be released to the public shortly, I hope, so we all could start building up his Discord channel. Website is deadbotnation.com. Series 2 is dropping late tonight or tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to it. I want to thank you for coming out here, talking to our community, and we always try to support everybody and anybody that we have coming through. And whenever you're bored, stop by the AstroZero Twitter Spaces, and we'd love to have you. Tomorrow we are not holding a Twitter Space, and on Wednesday we're having our good friend Mr. Chief down there with the Schlein Buddies gonna come on with us and talk about his project. Deadbot, thank you again, man. You're awesome. I really appreciate you giving us a little bit over an hour to talk with our community.
Thank you, man. I so appreciate this time.